Welcome to Leadership in the Tarot. My name's Nicole, and I will be your guide on this journey. I'm so glad you've joined us. Let's jump in. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Leadership in the Tarot, and we're going to start with what I'm reading. So this week, I have been rereading Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Maree Brown, and something that I really love about this book is that not only is it an inspirational book for leadership, this idea of creating collective action, but Adrienne Maree Brown also provides us with some really practical tools to be able to bring this to reality, to actually implement this in our work. So I highly recommend Emergent Strategy. And it is what inspired our reading for this week. And our card for this week is the Two of Wands. So here in our Two of Wands, we have our protagonist with the world in one hand, standing in their domain, looking out, seeing what is possible out there. And so, last week we were talking about looking backwards and thinking about our childhood and finding joy and playfulness as a way to bring that into our present. The Two of Wands is really about thinking forward and creating plans for what is to come, which I love in this concept of aligning with Emergent Strategy, because it really has us connecting to what is important to me that I want to cultivate further into my life. So the Two of Wands, what it says to us is, in the Ace of Wands, there's this workaround. You've been thinking about this idea. The Two of Wands says you are ready to act. You are ready to make a decision about what comes forward, about what comes next, about how you want to go off into the world and what you want to cultivate. And so, as leaders, it's really important that we understand what it is that we want to create, what it is that we want to cultivate in our work and in our lives. And that we're really clear about that, in particular when we're doing this work with other people. Because if we're not clear about what it is that's important to us or what our intentions are, well, that plays out in the type of work and the relationships that we have and the challenges that we encounter as we're trying to implement this change, as we're trying to move forward. What's interesting about the Two of Wands when it's reversed is that it invites you into saying, but do you actually know what's important to you? Do you actually have some clarity about what your values and your goals are? And so what it says is, hey, if you're finding some struggles, make sure you go back inside first and say, what is really important to me before I take action, before I make these decisions about what needs to come next? If we're going to go from the individual, so we'll start with individual leadership. If I'm leading myself, perhaps what this comes to is, again, living in that world of it's time to make a decision. I'm in a space to say, okay, do I want to stick with what I know? The job that I have, maybe even the way that I'm doing my job right now? Or do I want to discover new ways of doing this work? Do I want to discover a new opportunity? Travel off and seek another way, another experience. So that's when I'm thinking about my individual. When I'm thinking about leading teams, some of the questions that come up or that I might be invited into is saying, what is really important for us? What is our intention for this project? What is our intention for this work? What is our intention for this organization? And then how do we operationalize that? How do we make that true throughout everything that we do? How are we really clear about what's so important to us? And then create a plan to make that happen. I've worked with many teams, and instead of understanding what it is that's really important, they start figuring out how they're going to do what they're going to do. And they come up with all of these ideas and projects and approaches. And what they really need to do first is come to what's most important. There's a great quote from George Harrison in a song, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So if we don't know where we're going, if we don't know our intention, then really we could do anything. Rather, if we have a clear intention, if we know what's important, if we have clear goals, then we can work towards those goals in an intentional way. And we can keep that intention, that core, those values central to our decision-making processes. And what that might have us doing is, okay, yep, this decision is something that's familiar to us. It's something that we've been doing. Or maybe it's, whoa, because we're very clear on our intentions, on our values, and our goals, this decision, we very clearly need to discover something else. We need to figure out another way to do this work because it is not aligned. So, again, this Two of Wands invites us into a space of decision making. Do I stay with what's familiar to me? Or do I go off and seek new perspectives, seek new adventures, knowing that I have what I need and I have a clear intention, a clear goal, some clear values that can guide me on my journey, and not being afraid to seek out and do something different just because what's familiar feels safe or feels comfortable. And another thing about Two of Wands, which I think connects really nicely with emergent strategy, is that twos are about relationships and collaboration. And so when we're thinking about creating big changes and we're thinking about moving forward, how are we moving forward together? How are we creating partnerships in this work? Now, if you want to move fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So when we're thinking about creating these changes and seeking out this new way of being, these new pathways, this strategic change, how are we making sure that as we're gaining new perspectives, we are including people in this process? We're actually listening. We're making changes as new ideas come along, as new people participate, to make sure that really the work that we're doing is aligned with our vision, is aligned with our intention, but is also adaptable, because the new perspectives that we learn will likely invite us into new ways of doing our work. So it's not that we're getting off our path of intention. It's not that that we're saying, oh, well, I'll just forget that value. No, it's that as we hear things, as we learn more, we're incorporating perspectives, we're incorporating other people into the work to actually make the work, to make our strategy better, to make our strategy work for more people. So that is our Two of Wands. Thank you for joining today. If you have any topics that you'd like us to cover for future episodes, go ahead and write those in the comments, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Again, I highly recommend Emergent Strategy as a tool as you're thinking about your strategic planning, about your own work in creating collective change in your organizations or perhaps in your social movements. I look forward to seeing you next time, and have a great week.